if you're picking up right from where our last video left off, you can kind of skip this first part. But I wanted to sort of show what happens if you just want to jump to a certain section in one of these notebooks, and you're not really sure like the right order of things to do here. So in this notebook, we're picking up where we left off. We're going to look at pose tracking. We're going to look at face estimation next. So let's say you just turned off your notebook and you want to come back and just start the face estimation work. So as always, you'll connect to Google Drive. And when you do that, obviously we'll get our pop-up here. Yep. And now what we'll need to do is we'll want to make sure that we load our model in from Mediapipe. So we'll scroll down. Actually, we can use the table of contents. Let's jump down to pose estimation. So even though we're not going to do pose estimation, we want to make sure we've prepped our other models correctly. So we'll come down here. We'll install Mediapipe. And this will obviously, you'll have to wait a little bit. Yep, there we go. Now, you could install this model for the pose landmarks, but actually for the face model, we need a different model. So what we'll do is we'll jump down here to face key point estimation. And it'll say here, download the model. So we'll go ahead and run that. And now we want to jump right into this. So again, we're going to do some face tracking using our video clips. So we're going to run these utility commands. And once again, we come back to our loading from JSON and then some filtering. So here I actually do recommend that you look into using shot type as a filter. Remember that for faces, you want a fairly close-up shot. So either medium shot, close shot, or extreme close shot, I think would be best. For long shot, it's possible the model will find faces in there. There's such small details that we might not really get much out of it. So let's choose medium shot, and then we can decide if we want to filter by our files or not. Maybe let's just see how many files are in total in this model if we run this. And you will notice that your JSON file starts to load a little bit slower as you begin to add more and more data to this notebook or to this JSON file. Especially the key point operations, it adds a ton of data and makes your files much larger. So do be careful of that. So looking at this, it looks like of the clips that we've run, both the filter, the shot type, the person detection and the shot type on, and that match the one person at a medium shot, we look at 73. So remember, if you don't run that person detection on every one of your clips, it will skip over anything that has not been processed. Same with shot type. So when you do decide what models you want to run on your clips, in some cases, some of these have like prerequisites essentially. So for this notebook, I do recommend running the box detection, which is at the top, and then the shot type classifier as well. Let's look and see what we get for, let's do extreme close-up. And again, you can also play with them in confidence level as well. So 455 clips, that is a lot. Let's try and see if we can narrow that down to a little bit less by upping our minimum confidence score. And 12. Let's just really crank this. Let's go really extreme close-ups. I mean, the other thing to remember is with an extreme close-up shot, you're very likely to have only ever one person in there. I guess maybe you get two, but it'd be very unlikely. So you will find there's a lot more within this category. 329 with that high confidence score, so that seems good. So now let's go ahead and just take a look at what our selection keys are. So remember, this is returning all of the clip titles. These are what it uses the keys in our model when we create the JSON file. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab one. Let's grab one of the Punch Drunk Love scenes. And then when you come down here, let me make a new variable here. So let's say video key. Turn that into a parameter for us. Okay. And then we'll using this. So let's take a look at what our clip looks like. So for face detection, I didn't include any of the directional tools. If someone really wants that only for faces, I guess we could look at it, but it's probably better for bodies. So I did skip that here. So we're just going to look at using match cuts. But first we need to process our video using our new model. So we want to start to detect the actual face positions using these models. So what we'll go ahead and do is run this command, which will take all of our selected video clips and apply our face detection model here. Now it's also going to pull in the number of people, although this looks to only have the base options. I will include that. I'll update this notebook to include the number of people. Like the other model, it does take in an input from it. So I'll go ahead and run that as well and include that for the next video. So when you come here, you might see there's another option as well for number of poses. Actually, we'll just pull that from up here. So yeah, so let's go ahead and run this. And I expect this to take a little bit of time. There are 329 clips, so it's going to take a little bit of time for run. So what I'll do is once I've run this, I'll turn off the video and then come back once we're finished. And we can also check to see how long it takes to produce that many pieces. Okay, what did I do wrong here? Okay, so again, when you restart a notebook, sometimes there is code that you need to double check that you're running. So for example, I don't think I included the right... Yeah, I didn't include the right library here as well. So let me grab that really quickly. Here we go. Just double check and make sure everything else is here. Let's go. Here. Again, let's see if we've missed anything. So like with the body model, this single test video will also produce an output video for us that we can look at. When we process the JSON, we will not output a video with the face markers on every one of them. Just takes too long. It adds a bunch of videos we need to process or delete. So in this case, if you want just the face markers out of this, I recommend that you just run individual clips using this section. All right, looks like we're finished here. Let's go ahead and find our temporary folder. If you are picking up from the previous example of using the body detection, you might see that there are multiple TMP folders, and you might be like, which one is this? Usually it'll be the latest one because of the dates, the timestamp that gets added. It'll be the last one. So it'll be the last one in your TMP folders. So there is a fair amount of data here, so we can go ahead and copy this path. And let's go ahead and run this and see what our video output. So it does a pretty good job of tracking. You'll notice that at some point in the middle here, it picks up his face, or his shirt as a face. And when he moves very quickly, you'll see the face detection kind of misses some stuff. But in general, this is pretty good. You know, especially for an extreme close-up. One of the things I have found is that when you use the body detection model, like say like an open pose model, and all you have is a face, it tends to struggle. So the nice thing about this is because it's a face-specific model, it's only going to provide face markers, but in stuff like an extreme close-up shot, this will actually be quite helpful. So that data is actually pretty good. Some little gaps here, and you'll see when he turns right to left that it misses some things. But overall, like pretty decent output. Okay, now we can go ahead and run this on all of our selections. So just like we did here, we only ran this on one, and now we'll run it on all of ours. So this is where I mean we'll probably be turning off the video and coming back to this. So let's just get started and see how this goes. Make sure I don't get any errors. Okay, so you'll see here that we actually are outputting the markers, and you'll notice that each key is a number less than 1. So remember that the way that these landmarks work is that this is essentially a percentage between 0 and 1. So for the x coordinate, which is usually the first coordinate, this first marker is about 50% left of the screen, and it's about 55% down. So all of these are getting saved out. You'll notice that this clip has an empty bracket. That means there were no face points found. So even though the object detection model found a face, the clip itself didn't contain a face or a person. What that might mean is that actually the person is facing away from the camera. So maybe it's someone where like they're walking away and the camera's seeing them from behind. This model does not find face points if it's turned backwards, whereas the object detection model would still find a person there. And that's kind of what's interesting about some of these tools overlapping. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll stop the recording and we'll come back when this is finished processing. Okay, so this took about 8 minutes to run. And you will notice that in here there are a handful of images that don't have anything in them. That's likely actually the back of someone's head. So this model does not find faces in the backs of people's heads, but the person detector does find people. So that's kind of one thing to be aware of. Now these will get basically pulled out when we do the next step, so we'll basically skip over any of these. So next step, this cell is here if, say, you would run this and your machine shut off and you wanted to pull those those files again based on the number of people in them as well as the shot type. So we'll actually skip over this because we do already have this data. Again, this cell, if we run this cell, this gives us all of the file names that were included in our selection. So when we asked for the extreme close-up shot at a min confidence of 8 with one person, we got these files back. Now, one thing to know is that these files do not always contain enough data that we can start with them. So for example, let's pull this file down here. And I'm just going to update. I'm going to make a little bit of a change to this. So I want this to be selection. So if I grab one of these clips, I actually want to move this down a cell or two. So if I grab, let's say randomly I grab this clip. When I render it, you may see there's really not a lot of faces in there. In fact, this is one of those areas where PyScene Detect kind of messed up, right? It has a clip of the very beginning of a person, but then nothing as a person here. It's very likely if I were to try to input this into our next step, it would throw an error. Let's actually do that and we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and run this cell just to make sure we save our utilities. We're going to skip this cell for now. That's just a debugging cell. For me, that you might not even see that. And then let's take this path, which is here, and let's input it into this system. So this cell will actually run all of our match cuts. So this will take the last clip from this scene and the first clip from whatever it matches to, and we'll combine them. Again, max videos can be set to, if let's say you only want 30 clips, you can set it to 30. If you want everything that is available from this selection, then use -1, and that will grab from everything. So if we run this, yep, I get an error message. It says pitch black 2000, this scene is not in this list. And that's because this list does some additional sorting to make sure that there's enough data in our material. So what we need to do then is choose a different clip. So let's go back to our selection list here and grab from a different list or a different scene. So let's grab this one and we can stick that in our player here. So we'll hit play. And here again, not really a lot of people. This clearly is one of those things where PyScene Detect was messing up quite a lot. Let me just grab maybe from a different video. Let's grab this. All right, there's a face. So let's start with this one, and hopefully this one works when we stick it into our model. Now, unfortunately, this is a little bit of just like guess and check. So if you do get another error, you'll just have to go find another clip. I know, it is annoying, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that seemed to work. So we ran this. You'll see that it basically told us how many videos were actually available at the beginning. So it found 239. Now remember, we started with some like 320. So that means, you know, like 80 of the clips were incompatible with this process. And that just means that the very first frame or the very last frame didn't have any facial detection in it, which meant it just skipped it, because we don't really want to like match cut at a place where there isn't actually a face. But we did get our process here, and if we run this cell, this will spit out the entire order of our pieces. Now I will also add this week, I'll pull in the EDL setup, so we can also run this through our EDL file system. I'll need to account for some frame rate issues, but that's okay. So now we can go ahead and output this. So let's go ahead and save this. We'll run this cell to make sure we run this utility, and then this will be our output path. Now I've already run this, so I'm just going to put a 2 at the end. This will take that video order list and just combine them all into one video, and it will crop to sort of, I believe, the minimum ratio is, I think, how this one works. So we'll go ahead and run this. Now I've already gone ahead and run this, so I'm going to go to my Drive account and actually show you what this looks like. So I will admit, the results on this one, not great, and I think that part of that is because of that Pi scene detect issue with this. But I did find a couple nice shots in here, so take a look at this. That one's right. That one's good right there. That one's bad. I don't know why that sequence there was pretty bad. So again, some hit or miss stuff, and you can definitely see Pi scene detect really chewed up this video. I should probably rerun it with that new backend that we kind of discovered. But hopefully that one's pretty good. You know, you do see people's faces kind of appear in about the right positions, so it's not terrible. Again, that one's not terrible. That one was pretty good. So hit or miss. This is where probably something like the EDL file output would be really helpful, because that's actually going to provide a little bit more control. You can sort of skip the match cuts that are really bad and keep the ones that are really good. So I'll make sure I input that this week. So if you're running this and you don't see it yet, just send me a reminder and I'll make sure it gets added. All right, so with that, that's pretty much everything we've got for this material. I hope people make some interesting things. Maybe you've got some really good faces that are worth sort of checking out. We're now going to step into using the video guidance. So we'll have a video control a bunch of not random frames, but frames that will be like very flickery, like we've talked about. So let's jump over to that.